So tell us a little bit about your journey from like operations to sales. And I mean, for people that don't know, in the mortgage business, when you're a retail loan officer, you're not sitting in Bank of America. You really have to go out there and build your own business and do your own thing and get your own clients. It's stressful. It's hard. It's not easy. And you've done it masterfully. So maybe you can just talk about that journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's funny because you were one of the first ones, let's say, that told me that I'd be a better loan officer than I would be a processor. One of my very first branch managers, his name was John Anding. Shout out to John if you ever hear this. I still love that guy. He's like, Vanessa, most of my clients like you more than they like me. He's like, you should really get your license and try and do this. And I was like, really? But like when you're making that hourly amount and that bonus and whatnot, you kind of get scared to jump into the commission only side. That's a very scary transition.
Yeah.
So and I finally just did it after hearing what you said. I was like, he's the second person that told me that I should probably try it. And I did. And honestly, it's all about just building relationships and keeping that relationship open because I built my business with realtors. That was 100% what I did at first. Just having meetings with them and kind of being their friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's really how it all started. And now, honestly, knock on wood, I've gotten to a point where I honestly get phone calls out of nowhere from so-and-so that referred me. And, oh, you did my sister's loan last year. And, I'd like to get pre-approved too. Like it's taken, 12 years to get to that point, let's say.
Oh my goodness. Crazy.
But it's a great thing when you don't have to be having realtor meetings every day,
Yeah.
So, and definitely, I don't know about for you, but even when we were quarantined, let's say, and nothing was really open, like no real estate offices, I still kept those relationships open with like text messages and phone calls and all that kind of stuff. Cause we really couldn't meet with people. Like nobody was really open to it. You know what I mean? So, that's when I kind of started working more on my database and doing more emails and, videos and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, but definitely making that jump from ops to sales was not something I was prepared for, I guess.
Yeah.
But when I finally did it, I'm like, okay, this is good. After the first couple of months, I was like, all right, these checks are a little better than being a processor,
Yeah.
So I'm super glad. I would never, and it's funny because I tell everybody, I'm like, you have to be a little insane to do this job. Like you have to just be a little bit crazy because I don't know about you. Like, I mean, even if you're doing great on a certain loan, let's say, you still have to manage so many different personalities, and so that can get difficult because you can get yelled at one day for no reason, so you have to kind of just take it with a grain of salt. And I tell my husband, like on the daily, I'm like, I just want to punch somebody today. Like, I mean, that happens. And I think I quit every other week. I really do. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. And then I'm like, all right, I'm back on.
Yeah. Yeah. It is this
roller coaster.
It is this weird level of stress. And I know realtors feel this as well to a certain extent, but at the end of the transaction, everything comes down to the lender delivering. Like if the loan
100%.
documents get there and the loan funds, everything kind of culminates with the loan officer. The problem is, and maybe I'm talking to you realtors or potential buyers, the problem is everything that happens for the 28 days prior to that culminating in the loan documents and the loan funding, the loan officer has very little control over that.
Sure.
We have no control over the appraiser, and we have no control over whether your insurance agent responds or not. And we have no control over the quality of the escrow company or the title company or the homeowner's insurance or whether or not the house is in a flood. There's like a million things that can go wrong.
We do.
But somehow you and I have control over all of that. Yeah. If I had control over all of that, I wouldn't be doing loans. I would be a multi-billionaire.
You know what I always say? I'm like, listen, I don't get paid until this closes either. Like if I could close it in 2 days, I would. I want to get paid just as quickly as you do. Like I don't have control over the appraiser that didn't show up for the appointment on Monday. I'm sorry.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like, it's always our fault.
Yeah.
Always.
It's very fun to get in trouble for everything all day long. And I'm with you. It's like this job can be so rewarding, especially as you mentioned, you have a lot of first time buyers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's so cool when you get somebody into their first house and you see like them post a picture on Facebook, like this is going to be the place their kid grows up and there's going to be like some generational wealth. And I think for a lot of the people you and I serve, a lot of times they're the first people in their family to ever own a house.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. But God, getting yelled at is
it makes it all worth it when you have those ones that are, super grateful. Like I had a guy, I think it was yesterday, his wife just passed away in January. They never bought a house together. She had cancer. He literally was crying when I told him, like, hey, you qualify for it was like 315,000. You know what I mean? And he was the happiest person ever. He was literally shedding a tear. He's like, I'm going to send you a gift card in your email for you and your husband to go to dinner. Like, this is the best news I've had all year, blah, blah, blah. You made my year. I'm like, that makes it worth it. Like, I'll get beat up all day for those results. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm still here.
That's pretty cool.